So introduction to graphics. So first sort of bit of information. So what is graphic design generally? Graphic design is communication through images, symbols, typography, and layout. For examples, used everywhere. So logos, posters, maps, apps, packaging, and signage. So every single day of your life, you will encounter graphic design in some form. From the minute you wake up in the morning to when you go and get your toothpaste from the bathroom, it's got a logo on it. From the cereal packet when you have your breakfast, if you've got a work uniform or a school uniform, in some cases I've got my little boy with a school uniform with a logo on it, to walk into the bus or the tram stop where there'll be adverts on the side of it or inside of it. Everywhere around you has got some form of graphic design. Even if you're scrolling on your phone, there'll be some adverts that pop up there or some sort of design of some sort. So yeah, design is everywhere. It's to communicate something for the most part, but we also have sort of digital art, graphic art that's more aesthetically pleasing for decorative purposes, perhaps in the home, wrapping paper, greetings cards, things like that. But in this case, for this particular brief, the actual product, the graphic design product, is a map. Unveiling curiosity through playful tourist cartography. So is anyone working on this currently, or is anyone thinking about going onto this particular brief for the next one? Is anyone working on it, worked on it, interested in it, or just wants to know more before you make a decision, perhaps? Okay. I can't hear anyone and I haven't seen any messages, so I'll just keep going. So maps have been long been gateways to exploration, revealing society's desire to navigate and comprehend the world. In today's digital era, the possibilities for creativity and engagement are boundless. In this imaginative graphic design project, you'll embark upon a whimsical journey of map design. So whether you find yourself in vibrant streets of a city or a serene landscapes of the countryside, this project offers flexibility to create captivating maps tailored to your chosen location. So it says, prepare to unleash your creativity, inspire adventurous spirit. So this is can be very, very personal. It can be really exciting, really adventurous, however you want to make it. I've just highlighted that word whimsical because it is playfully fanciful or quirky, light-hearted and imaginative, often with an element of surprise. So maps normally in our day-to-day, they're very functional. It's normally to be used to get us from one place to another. There are sort of more playful maps. Again, I'll bring in my little boy reference here. You know, treasure maps. He likes to make his own treasure maps because there's an element of excitement with that, because there's some gold to be found or there's some treasure to be found or something like that. So for this project, I have brought this to the start of the slides. A suggested design process, and you'll kind of see this as we go through the slides. You know, it's always a good idea for anything to brainstorm or mind map a wide range of ideas, because to start with, you might not have a clue really what you're going to base this on or what your route will be. Define your projects, carry out research of interesting starting points, analyze research and evaluate it, develop ideas, resolve your projects and evaluate your work. This is a general sort of design process that you'll kind of follow throughout a lot of the project briefs. So for this first part of this map brief, I've just put down some potential ideas based on my own sort of travels, my own location, where I've been, but also I've kind of added things here that are a bit more playful or a bit more maybe going back into history. So like I put a route you used to take but don't anymore. You could note all the changes that have happened since, because we all go through different stages of life where things change and you don't maybe work at the same workplace anymore, or you don't go to the same school or college anymore, or something changes so your route's not the same anymore. And sometimes you'll revisit an area or out of maybe accident sometimes, and you're like, oh, I remember going here. I used to go here a lot. It might be that you kind of go back in time and revisit places where you used to go. because it's likely that a lot of those places have changed now. Buildings disappear and reappear and things change all the time. It could be a route where your favourite food places are located. So you might have a map which is highlighting all of your favourite food places. It might be a route that you want to take. So maybe, thinking really positively and thinking of, maybe a job you do want, or a place where you'd like to live, or a place that you'd like to visit, or maybe you are visiting maybe soon. Maybe think about a route you want to take, a route that you take daily, and just thinking about loads of ideas. So, I would start this project off with a mind map of just everything that's in your head of potential routes. Any questions so far? So, Carish, you've already done it, but you're thinking of maybe studying this at uni, so graphics. So this will help, I guess, going through these slides, just the process really, the design process, and just maybe getting some ideas of things. So when you picked your route, I always like to do, or have seen on some student work, an intention slide. So you've picked your route, you've kind of got an idea in your head about what you want to achieve. It's really good to just set it out to start with, write it down, write down your intentions of what you want to achieve, and talk about why you want to particularly focus on that route. It might be a desire that you want to revisit somewhere, or it might be what's realistically possible for you to actually take photographs, because in this project you'll need to take photographs. It's obviously a good idea to be realistic about what you can achieve in that. Let me just check, is anyone in the lobby at all, Joe, at the moment? No, I'm just seeing if anyone is. Okay, so exploration. So document your journey through primary research sketches, notations, diagrams and photographs. So most of us have got a mobile phone to hand. Maybe go and sort of visit your route that you're going to base this project on. You're probably going to have to set aside some time to do this. Go and visit your route. Take some photographs, take loads and loads of photographs, but also take photographs that maybe aren't the obvious photographs that you might normally take. Maybe sort of do some close-ups of parts of your route, maybe take some close-ups of, as simple as it might sound, it could be the different sort of surfaces and textures that you see along the way. So it might be the different types of concrete on the different pavements that you encounter on your particular route. It could be like a muddy pathway or a grassy pathway or a stoned pathway. Take pictures of everything of interest, textures and different colours, and maybe signage that you see on your journey, on your route. If you're able to, try and do some actual sketches, some little quick sketches on a sketch pad as you're walking. It's it gives a really nice sort of movement element to it when you kind of do it whilst you're going on a route. The kind of types of the nature of the line that you kind of end up producing with these sketches, and just capture everything about that environment. And also depending on the time of day as well, because day and night, and what you're comfortable with, but day and night your route could look very different. So you might choose to visit that route at different times of the day if possible, because you might, it might look very, very different, and you might see different things that maybe you haven't seen before at different times of the day. Any questions so far, or anything you want to share, or any ideas you've got? Okay, please do sort of I think raise your hand on here. There's a raise your hand icon, or pop a message in the chat. So digital exploration. So it's great, obviously, being able to visit the route yourself, and that's obviously the most important part of this. But there's some places that you won't physically be able to see on your route, because there's always behind things. There's always things that maybe you've never discovered before. You might do a route all the time, and you think you know it inside out, but sometimes you discover things because maybe you don't take a certain turning on your route to a certain place. You don't take any, you might discover that there's something else there that you didn't know about. And the best way to do that, other than spending a day investigating the ins and outs of a particular route, would be to have a look at sort of the digital services available. So Google Maps is great because you've got Street View to look at things in more detail, but also Google Earth is a really good one as well, to look at things in more detail. It's something that I've used a lot in the past, because you're able to look behind things that you've maybe not seen before, and it just gives a whole different sort of dimension sometimes, kind of realizing where you are in the grand scheme of everything else, or what's behind the normal route you normally take. So yeah, do make use of those services. Screenshot the route thoroughly, add your screenshots to your slide, and just see if you can find anything that you just haven't seen before, because it might become part of your development later down the line in the projects, that you might create a symbol or an icon for something that has been found in this digital exploration. So contextual research, most projects will have an element of contextual research. So a couple of the artists initially mentioned on the brief are Robert Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns. A couple of their examples of their map designs, and as you can see, they are quite different from each other. The Mother of God one is very, very detailed, and I feel like I need to, well, I can't do it right now actually, but if I zoomed into that quite a lot, you'd see lots and lots and lots of detail in that piece of work. And obviously just looking at it as well, just the paper that is been used, that's been drawn on, and just sort of obviously the aged element to it is an interesting quality that you might choose to be inspired by further on in the project. And then the Jasper Johns one, it's not your usual kind of map that you would maybe look at, but you can tell it is meant to be a map. And you can see within the sort of swatches of paint that kind of overlap a bit. You can see some of the words that look like they've been stenciled on in some way. So you might choose to do some, even though it's graphics, not everything's digital with graphics. So you might choose to do some paint experiments on paper and then scan them in, use some sort of editing software to then layer things up on top of it, that kind of thing. But really look at different artists. There's lots and lots of artists that look at maps as like a theme in their work. So these two are really good starting points. And then there's also just another list of other useful reading links and references that might help you with other elements of your map design. So whether it's the typography element, whether it's the symbol element, whether it's the style, an illustrator style that you like the look of, do really sort of make your research very wide-ranging and in-depth to help inspire how your map design will go. So the other thing I wanted to say is this map doesn't need to be, obviously we're thinking whimsical, we're thinking playful. Think about how you can make this, like it could also be like a game. You could utilize, and I've said this in the past, you could utilize QR codes. You could make it some sort of interactive kind of map. You could think about whether on the route that somebody takes, there's a QR code situation that reveals something else. It could be that you find cards of some sort of information on the journey. Think about how you can make it playful and whimsical. Is it highlighting a specific fact about a part of the route that maybe not many people know? If it's about you, if you're making it personal to you, it might be that you highlight something as to how it relates to you, that route. It could be that you have a memory of a particular part of the route where you got, I don't know, let's say splashed by a car and you just remember being wet from head to toe. It might be like a memories thing, a map of memories for you, because if you make it personal, that might be the case.
Hi Zoe, just a second. I was just saying a couple of people have done different audience sets. So whether it's an audience, whether it's for children or for adults or for tourists or for, you think about students on their first day going to university or something, going to a place your place and not knowing where on earth they're going, or where the local coffee shops are, or where the cinema is, and that kind of thing. And the other thing is just to make sure you look at all the artists that are on the list, because it's about accruing a range of artists to inform your artworks throughout the course and beyond. So it's really nice to be able to have lots of artists that you look at for the course. So I'll be quiet.
That's okay. I can actually add, I'll put it in a resource somewhere. I can probably add some more map artists that I've used in the past to a list anyway, to give you some more to work with. But yeah, make your research wide ranging, and make use of the style, be inspired. Don't just have loads of artist research and it's separate then to what you end up making. Make it so that we can clearly see the visual links and how it's inspired you. Reflection and evaluation is kind of part of this really, because evaluation and reflection shouldn't be something that's left towards the end of the project. It should be something that you're doing throughout the journey of the project, because it's inevitable as you're going through your project that things change and things don't maybe work out how you originally intended. If you did do an intention slide perhaps at the start of the project, you might have to explain, you know, I've maybe changed my mind about this because I found out the route isn't quite working, or I need to expand my route, or I need to reduce my route because I've maybe thought too big. So make sure that you're consistently evaluating, reflecting on everything at every point. Just because it, you know, the assessment criteria, there is that need for it, but it just helps us understand the journey and what's happened for you to get to your final outcome as well. So, you know, on the screen there's just some examples of past students' sort of reflections as they've made along the way of their project. And then symbol design and development. So, you know, when you hear the word maps, you know, symbol goes hand in hand with maps. And obviously you normally have, you know, your basic symbols on a map. If you're going to a local country park, you'd have your most familiar symbols like the bench to signify where the picnic area is, or the toilet symbol, or like a playground symbol, something like that. But you can come up with any symbol that you want to, or any set of symbols that you want to, because this is very, very personal to you. So play around with ideas, sketch ideas out, try different materials, techniques, go out of your comfort zone as well, because, you know, we need to see how you're experimenting. We need to see that you're trying things out. Not everything's going to work out and work out amazing. The things you'll try things and you'll look at it and you'll go, oh, it's not quite working how I intended it to. But keep it in your work, you know, explain, reflect on it, explain what's maybe not worked for you. It could be that a particular material isn't quite suitable for the symbol you're doing because it's maybe not crisp or sharp enough, or maybe the symbol becomes a bit illegible perhaps with one of the materials that you choose to use. So then try something else, explain it. You might then start to digitize some of your symbols. Now, I don't know from the group that's with us today, I don't know how confident any of you are using digital sort of means to recreate your symbols. And I also appreciate that not everyone's going to have, like say, like Adobe software, but I'm just going to show you quickly. This is Adobe Express. This is free. I've made sure I've logged into the free version for you. So it's a bit like the Adobe version of Canva. Everyone's heard of Canva, but Adobe have their own kind of version, Adobe Express. And basically you can...
Are you sharing, Zoe? Are you
sharing? Is it not sharing? One second.
It's not showing for me anyway. Maybe it's for the other audience.
No problem. Let me just change something. So it's Adobe Express. It's the free version, and there's lots of things you can do with it, which would probably be a separate video, to be honest with you, which I could do at some point. But there is a drawing part of it, and it's dead easy. You've got your artboard in the middle, and you can change your brushes to whichever sort of brush stroke that you want. At whichever size that you want. Obviously you can change the colours. There's loads more things you can do with this, but the things that I thought were quite useful, this dashed line and this dotted line, because lots of people seem to put dashed and dotted lines on their maps. So that might be something that you choose to use to help develop your ideas. It might be that you've done a multicoloured painted background. You might have collaged a background. Then you might have scanned it in or photographed it, and you might then bring it into Adobe Express and then layer up different elements of your map design. You can draw on top of it. You might draw your symbols out on Adobe Express or another software that you feel confident with. So just keep experimenting and keep pushing yourself. That the thing with this course is to go out of your comfort zone, try things that you've not tried before. Let me stop sharing. So yeah, experiment with your range of medium processes, printmaking as well. Printmaking is a great one. I appreciate you have to use what you've got in your home or where you're working on this, but just try and push yourself as much as you can. Typography and photography. So experiment with different typography styles. Don't just sort of use the first one that you see. Just play around with some things, because the other thing you're going to see when you start developing your map more is sometimes the lettering becomes illegible with certain maybe colours behind it, certain textures behind it. Show the experimentation process of you trying out different font styles, different sizes, different effects on the fonts. You might have drop shadows, you might have a glowing edge on it. Just, and I think it says in this project, have at least three typefaces, using a maximum of 3 typefaces to maintain clarity and visual appeal. Make sure as well that your typefaces that you use with each other, make sure they complement each other in some way. Make sure they don't clash. You might even choose to draw out some lettering. You might choose to draw out your whole alphabet of your own. Then again, you could digitize that if you wanted to. You could take it into Adobe Express. You could trace your hand-drawn alphabet. And there are ways, it's a bit more advanced in Adobe Illustrator, where you could actually digitally trace the hand-drawn stuff as well. Keep taking photographs throughout your project, making sure that you're getting specific landmarks in there or elements along the route. Keep always photographing things just to keep adding to building your map design up. Paper and presentation, another sort of area of experimentation. Try different qualities and surfaces of paper. It could be brown paper, it could be other textured paper that you find along the way. You might have collage paper. You might choose to create a collage of different paper styles and types. You might choose to, I think student who's created that work there, I think they've done the tea or the coffee stain effect on some paper. Play around with things, let things dry, scan things in, you could draw on top of stuff. Again, things will work great, things won't work so well. It's just keep documenting the process along the way. And then, as you get towards your final outcome, you start bringing your elements together. It says on here, your map will go beyond navigation, becoming an immersive and whimsical experience for visitors. So, you could, like I said before, you could have parts of your map that are interactive in some way. It might be that you might not be able to make it necessarily, but you could talk about it. If you can't actually make it, you could say, on this symbol, if you press this symbol, then this happens, or if you press this symbol, then you hear something, or something like that. Again, with your final outcomes as well as your experimentation, we do want to see how everything's been built up, how everything's been created. It's likely that you'll have, you might have different variations of your final outcome, because you might experiment with different symbol styles. You might have the different, typography experiments in there. You might do different color schemes. You might replace one texture with another. You might choose to, I don't know, just keep pushing yourself and just keep adding it to it. You might extend your map. So the other thing that links back to research that we do need to see is a bibliography. We do need to see everything that you've used to inform your work. So it could be books, could be websites, images, videos, maps, interviews, anything that you've used. Please ensure that you create a bibliography so we can see, how you've been inspired. But also it's really good practice to do to add a bibliography to everything as well. And then towards the end of these slides, I've repeated this slide again. This is that design process that I showed you at the start. Keep that in mind as you're working through this project. It's a really good process to follow because it kind of shows the whole journey of the design process. And then assessment evidence, this is taken from the brief as well. Minimum evidence expected at assessment generating responses brief will typically consist of wide-ranging experimentation in 3D, 2D and digital media, samples, test pieces, maquettes, prints, etc., with explanatory evaluative annotation in your sketchbook. Have your digital sketchbook that coherently documents both visually and textually development of a project. Annotate everything. Make sure that I'm not going to repeat myself. Make sure everything's analysed and evaluated. Make sure you talk about your strengths and weaknesses, as well as sort of materials and processes and things maybe not working out because of the nature of the material. Also talk about your own strengths and weaknesses, because this is also a chance to reflect on your own skill set. Beyond everyone knows what their own skill set is, and it's quite fair enough to say, I'm not so great with the digital drawing, but in this project I've chosen to push myself. I've experimented with this, because then you can sort of see your own personal journey, your own personal development. And project evaluation, again, it's kind of talking about what you've learned, your own strengths and weaknesses, what you think about your own map outcome, what have you explored in terms of materials and processes, and what action for improvement do you need to make to improve your learning for the next project that you work on. So maybe set yourself some targets as well. And then this is a repeat as well, I won't go through that, of the suggested reading list. And then there's also some theoretical books to explore that's also mentioned on the brief that you might choose to look at, and websites to visit, which we talked about Google Maps before, but there's also other types of maps as well. So I have seen this in past student work where they have collected astronomy maps and treasure maps and ancient maps, because all of those things, as well as the artist research, all of these things are going to influence you in some way, or give you loads of ideas. And then I won't read through this. This is just your information. This is the assessment criteria that you are assessed against for all 3 of your stage 1 projects.